Welcome back to Thrawn's Revenge. Last time we fought a couple of large ships from the Pentastar alignment. One of our heroes got taken down, destroying their Super Star Destroyer, and we also took some losses fighting their Praetor battle cruisers. But ultimately we took out what are probably their most important space assets. We also captured Coruscant, the most important planet in the galaxy, after a surprisingly easy raid, and then we started back capturing all of the territories between Coruscant and our own territory, which also proved to be quite easy. Now we're skipping 1 hour into the future of the game because a whole load of footage was corrupted or destroyed for as yet still unknown reasons. Starting to suspect it's something to do with the game being paused when I start or stop the recording. We'll need to experiment with that. Anyway, right now, we're here on Mustafar, apparently, and we just annihilated an AT-AT. Those things have been nerfed, I suppose, from vanilla since it went down instantly. Had some fun with line of sight, trying to push through this archway, because the enemy were on higher ground than me, and my guys were just shooting at the hill. I guess they presumed they had line of sight, but they didn't. Well, long story short, nothing happened. So I had to run away and kind of cancel this engagement to draw the enemy off the hill. That was all fine in the end. We pushed onto their base in the top right, but then, back at that same archway, something started shooting at this turret I'd left behind, shooting through the wall and invisibly, quite cheekily. It later turned out, as my army went back over there was an AT-AT just in a position that's invisible to the camera, but finally it appears there. And I see that it's actually my MMTs destroying these things so easily. One hit takes off most of an AT-AT's health. So those big MMT tanks really are powerful. We should get a few more of them just in case we ever face some real resistance. We move on to the left. There was some more enemy base to kill, including a hero building. Then we pushed on a bit more, and AT-AT just goes right down, right out of the factory. This force cannot be stopped by the looks of things, and there goes their last building, picking us up the win here at Mustafar. So now we'll be heading back to the campaign map to try and get an idea of what actually is going on here. We're right at the bottom of the map in Mustafar, because what I've been doing is capturing the New Republic's territory. Previously we crippled them in space, but we just left their territory here. So what I did was go through and take all of these territories, and now we're actually fighting the White faction, the Eridu Authority I think they were called. One of their fleets is currently at Bespin, so I'm sending my fleet back to go and deal with it. However, the fleet disappears by the time I actually arrive at Bespin, so no battle. I then sent this fleet to all the various surrounding planets looking for those enemies, but we never ended up finding them. We've also captured a few of the territories around Coruscant, so our position in the centre of the map is more secure, and really we're starting to encroach on the entire western half of the map. We're starting to secure things pretty nicely. To complete that project, we need to move north and take the things that are between Pentastar space and the centre of the galaxy. So that's what we'll be doing. I say move north, we're actually coming at them from the north here with forces left over from the Pentastar campaign and a newly built fleet. Just going to storm in, auto-resolve the undefended space, and now let's get down to the ground to win some battles. This first fight was nice and easy. The only thing the enemy had on their side was that they had turbo lasers, inside their base shield, so I had to run into the shield before I could start firing at them. All I'm doing is spamming infantry, which is great for taking down the turbo lasers. Infantry don't take much damage from their attacks for some reason, and by just sheer spam of small arms fire, you can kill those things relatively quickly. So we capture the entrance to the base, and the rest of the base didn't really have anything defending it. The enemy are just throwing scout bikes at me in terms of their resistance. After that fight, we immediately started moving over to the east to take this other Empire planet. However, we're not going to attack it right now, because I wanted to move up some reinforcements that were being constructed nearby, just to make my army a bit more diverse so it's not just infantry spam in case we do face something that requires actual vehicles. Before I could actually order the fight to start, we had a little battle going on at Mustafar that I'll just auto-resolve. Looks like the Eridu guys are pushing back into their territory here, so we will just take the loss. I was going to move my fleet to counter, but you can see I've already told the fleet to go and attack elsewhere, so we're going to have to come around behind Mustafar to make sure the enemy don't have time to do a land invasion over there. At the same time, I wanted to get the fights over here going. Going to go with the Pentastar attack first, for no particular reason, or I suppose because I'm waiting for reinforcements there. There's another delay, because our fleet arrives in Eridu's space and blows up a space station, so I come back down here. You can see I'm constantly pausing the game to try and micromanage this in the most efficient way possible, which is probably why the footage was lost, because as I said, I suspect it's something to do with pausing. I have real trouble getting that fight with the Pentastar planet going, but eventually here we go. I start off with the usual rush strategy, capturing a swamp speeder factory near our base. Then we spot one of those Attack of the Clones rolly rocket things. Those are always interesting to see. The enemy counter rush, they're coming at me with a load of infantry right here, but it seems what the enemy are actually doing is trying to walk past me, and obviously that doesn't go very well for them, just a bit of bad AI right there. They all get killed and we'll carry on with our rush. I'm trying to go towards the top of the map. There's another rolly rocket thing here, slowly sniping away at me. Luckily they're not very strong and it's on its own. There are quite a few more of them hanging around the map though. Once I sent my team up to the top, I was going to send a swamp speeder to go to the right just to see what's there. Since these things are free, I don't mind sacrificing them just to get line of sight and general map information. As it turns out, there are some things here, more of those rocket launchers. Thought maybe we could contend them with the swamp speeder, because it seems like it would be a nice counter unit to artillery, something fast and light, but it doesn't work like that. Even when I spanned all of the ones we produced, it doesn't work very well. The rockets are too powerful. Although I did still get some pretty good use out of these swamp speeders. What I did was just tell them to run towards the enemy base, and on the way they gave us line of sight on an enemy defensive position where they've got all of these vehicles and infantry sitting around, and I very quickly ordered a bombing run on that location before we lost line of sight. So now we're going to have a good time blowing up a whole load of enemy units while our army goes back to take the position the swamp speeders scouted. It's actually even more than I first saw. There were like 8 vehicles there and tons of infantry, so that is great stuff to have destroyed for free. We capture a communications array, allowing us to see that the Pentastar actually have this place quite well fortified. They've got loads of buildings. I wanted to try and destroy both of these 2 buildings here, the heavy and light factories, at once using a bombardment by shooting it into the middle of them. But it doesn't do enough damage on the edge of its area of effect, so it seems like I got too greedy there, wanting to destroy both, and ended up destroying neither. So our army will have to start pushing into the base while we wait for our bombers and bombardment to recharge. Just before that, I wanted to show you me taking out this one chicken-style ATST. I just felt so sorry for this one unit that the enemy sent to face our army, and it just died instantly. They do that a few times throughout the battle. I think the Pentastar aren't very nice. We, Empire 2.0, are much nicer to our troops, I think. Anyway, so we started pushing on towards the enemy base, and while we did that, I sent bombers to attack those 2 buildings from earlier, and as it happens, we do defeat them both at the same time in the end. So, I don't know, that's something that happened. We continue pushing on. There's another chicken leg thing. This is going to get absolutely taken out. We have to cross a small river and then face some enemy defensive positions. They had lots of infantry and bunkers, but the bunkers can just be destroyed with the MMTs, and then the infantry aren't too hard to kill. Had some trouble killing them here because our weapons are just missing half the time, but slowly but surely we wipe out those infantry squads, capture the enemy's last real defensive position and move on. Oh, I say that actually. There is one more defensive position that I was worried about. First we blew up that light factory, weakening their base, and then my army's starting to move towards the worrisome position. It's this place. They've got a bunker and 2 turbo laser towers that could provide a challenge if we actually attacked it, so we're not going to attack it. Once again, we just blow them up. It seems that bombers and bombardments are just really overpowered because the counter to it, shields, just don't seem to be used very often. When there are shields on the map, they usually end up getting destroyed early on, and you can just use those things anyway, so it's pretty good. There's the planet taken. It's a nice choke point planet. It connects the center and mid-rim of the galaxy to this stuff over on the right with all these other factions we haven't even touched yet, so we'll probably get on to looking into those guys later. For now, let's do this next battle and start securing up more territory in the area. In this fight, I was testing out this flyer unit that I hadn't tried before. It's basically just a couple of fighters in a unit. One of them's already dead at this point. They're not very powerful, but they're good in that lots of units can't shoot at aerial things, so they're kind of immune to damage from a lot of sources. not immune to damage are my own anti-aircraft things, which here are being blown up by the enemy's ATSTs. My infantry aren't doing very well either in this situation. Don't have the best composition here, it's still too focused on being anti-infantry, so even light vehicles are annoying for pretty much all of my armies actually. I haven't really composed any of them properly, because we are still rushing. I'm attacking mostly with the units that I've just built here and there along the way, with no proper army built with any composition in mind. Anyway, we blow up the enemy's power generator. I thought that would disable their turbo laser towers here, but I think it just stops them from turning. They can still shoot at you if they're facing you while the power's off. They just can't adjust their aim, which is fine anyway, since we're spamming infantry, which is great against turbo laser towers. One thing infantry aren't very good at doing is taking down barracks, the infantry producing buildings, because a barracks has an anti-infantry turret built into it in this mod, so we blow them up with vehicles and bombardments instead. Only a little bit of tactics needed to overcome that problem, obviously. There goes an enemy Hypervelocity gun, and that's going to be a win in this battle. Thank you very much. We actually lost those fighters, unfortunately, but they were too annoying to use. They just end up flying off somewhere and getting shot by a turbo laser or something without you paying much attention to them, so you need to micro them heavily to keep them alive. Now down in the south, we're still sneaking up on that fleet that attacked us at Mustafar. Risked an auto-resolve on a heavy frigate station and it was fine, so that's good to learn. And here we go, now we can take out these Eridu ships before any antics happen here. It's just 3 Star Destroyers, one of them a Victory class, so nothing much to worry about. You can see I kind of wrecked the Victory class thing and then just let it float off since it's not doing any harm, and focus on taking down the much more powerful Star Destroyer 2. And that only takes a few moments with focus fire, so that's all good. And the other Star Destroyer ends up retreating, probably the right choice in this situation. So there we have it, that situation is resolved without much fuss. I'm going to have that army hang around, that navy I should say, sorry, in this area, because I'm going to go on the offensive against the Eridu in this area, even without much of a ground army to support us, just to weaken them. First need to capture this Imperial space over here. There's nothing at all to this battle, however there was an added challenge in that the enemy have a Hypervelocity gun, and it's pretty powerful. Looks like 3 hits will bring down one of my Syndic Star Destroyers. So there's a time pressure. We need to take out this negligible defense before the Hypervelocity guns do big damage to our fleet. Soon the second shot comes in, and we're now on the verge of death with this Syndic. I think its engine got taken out by one of the shots, so it can't jump out of the system. I realise though, there is going to be a potential way for us to get away without the Hypervelocity gun firing again. We're nowhere near close enough to the space stations to destroy them and win the battle before it fires again. But there is the option in battle to auto-resolve the result, and since the enemy just have a couple of corvettes and some fighters, I thought, well, let's auto-resolve against all of our capital ships, and then we'll just win without the Hypervelocity gun firing. However, turns out it's not quite that easy, because we end up losing 2 Ascendancy Star Destroyers, which are even more powerful than the Syndics, only slightly I should say. So overall, to save 1 capital ship, I lost 2. And it totally wasn't worth it. So don't auto-resolve, the lesson of Star Wars Empire at War continues to hold true. Anyway, now I'll just move my ground forces, ready to capture that last Imperial bastion in that area. So let's get on with this attack on the Eridu. I'm going to go right to the east into a little diamond of 4 Eridu planets that we can take down. With our main fleet and Thrawn, I want to do something similar with the remnants of the Empire. You can see they've got lots of level 3 space stations on our border, so they could potentially be building capital ships right there. Therefore, in order to delay their return to power if they do attempt to build another fleet, we'll just pop in and take out all of the capital ship building facilities to make it hard for them. In this fight I'm going to be pulling out some of the next level micro, not that it really matters. You'll see I target here one of their tiny Lancer frigates for like 2 seconds, and then before it's destroyed, switch target onto something else. That slightly optimises your damage output, because the long lead time weapons like proton torpedoes will still go towards your original target after you start firing at a new target, and maybe enough to take it out. There's no real reason to be pulling out all the stops on the micro for this fight, I'm just doing it for my own amusement. You can see I'm also blowing up all the guns on their cruisers, but leaving the cruisers alive so they can't respawn, another tactic to make attacking one of the capital class shipyards easier. Eventually, we win, for no losses. That's what I like to see. And now we can start moving on to do it again to the next planet. Before we arrive, we've got another arrival going on down here in the Eridu space. Here's what I meant about the little diamond of 4 planets. So we'll go around and just blow up all of the shipyards in this area and take out any ships we see. Here there was just one Imperial Star Destroyer, not going to be much of a problem for our massive spam. We go on to destroy the space stations without hassle, just a level 1 space station. Now we'll jump back up to Thrawn and the main fleet, because we're doing the same thing in Imperial space, as I said, but this time I was like, well, I've done a lot of pretty boring space battles recently, let's auto-resolve, and I found I could auto-resolve safely against a capital class shipyard, which was very good news. We'll do the same thing there against that frigate shipyard, since that's a lesser target, and move on to do more attacks. So hopefully this will speed up the gameplay. I'll just auto-resolve any case where space isn't defended by any ships. I think it does give you a much better auto-resolve if there's nothing there, compared to if there was like 1 fighter or 1 corvette, then it would actually make the auto-resolve be challenging. But if it's just space stations, you seem to do okay. So that's a good discovery. Anyway, we're moving on to this land battle where we need to kick the Empire out of our backyard. If you remember before, I was talking about how you can't run over infantry. This battle proves that you can with the classic TIE Mauler units, the #1 running over infantry thing. So our initial infantry squad that I rushed forward to take some build points and try and get the next landing zone was annihilated by these enemy vehicles, mostly the Mauler. However, they did just about build an anti-vehicle turret behind them, and that turret goes on to destroy all of the vehicles. So we won the fight, I suppose, but we've learned that TIE Maulers are at it again with those running over skills, with the AI's micro as well, making them really good at doing it. However, by just leading with our tanks, especially the MMTs, that's not going to be a problem. The enemy are just spamming light vehicles who all die in 1 hit to the MMT laser, or maser as it actually is. So yes, no problem after that, once we make sure to lead with them. We capture a communications array so we can see the whole map, and I bomb the enemy's power generator, so that's going to disable the turbo lasers, the main thing that might stop me just rushing in with tanks. They'll still sort of stop me if they're facing my tanks as they drive up to them, as we've already mentioned, so I need to spam infantry to get rid of them if I can, but we've got some trouble here trying to do it. My infantry are going absolutely wild shooting the hillside and aren't doing very much damage to the enemy at all. I'm blowing up the enemy's base in the meantime, so we're making good use of the delay, but yes, this was pretty annoying. It took an extremely long time to bring down that turbo laser tower. Most of my vehicles are just doing nothing because I need the infantry to go take out all the towers before we can finish the attack, so we're destined to win this battle. It's just taking absolutely forever because of the turbo laser towers. Eventually, there we have it, we spammed the enemy's base with everything and did the business. So we did lose 1 unit of infantry at the beginning there, and a lesson was learned along the way. Now a space battle comes up over at Corellia. I was expecting to just auto-resolve another shipyard, but the Empire have something here, a couple of discs worth of units. Looked in and saw no fleet, just a Victory Star Destroyer. Here's why it says we've got a fight on our hands. It's because they've got loads of dropships hanging around here with just some units on them. So we're going to go and take them out. They happen to mostly fly across the face of our fleet as we approach the enemy space station, so gave them a nice light show before they died. Had to actually send some fighters to hunt down all of them before I took out the space station, otherwise they would have been able to retreat, and we don't want that. But diligently, we got everything on the map, and that was the end of that. It was just a load of stormtroopers in the end, so not like we're taking out anything valuable, but better than nothing, might as well. And now Thrawn can take his fleet back to our territory with a job well done. Since we finish off the Empire up to the north, we can use that ground army that's been freed up to actually go down there and start taking some territory. However, I'm not going to do that, because what I really wanted to do is push east and take that red planet that's a really nice choke point. Delaying me from actually making that order is an attack up here. It's the Zinji's Empire at it again, I believe. I'm just going to let them win because I happen to already have a fleet on the way to this location, since I was paranoid that I might be attacked there, meaning we'll be able to re-secure things there pretty quickly, I suppose. Now we'll go on with this attack I mentioned against this red planet right here. Once I have it, I just want to sit there and use it as a really good defensive position that's going to effectively cut off tons of our core territories now, in the core of the galaxy I should say, from potential aggression coming from the east. It looked like there was a fight here, but again it was a fight against loads of really tiny ships. This time it's some patrol boats or something. They do have some offensive capabilities, but not very many, and we quickly took them down with our capital ships. So after that win, I was going to make the ground attack and secure the planet so we could build some hypervelocity guns there or something. Before that, looks like the rampage down here is continuing. We've taken the bottom 3 of this Diamond of Eridu alignment's planets, and now we're going to move up to Sulis Van, the planet blocking us from getting to Eridu itself. They do give us a fight here, but it's just a couple of Victory class Star Destroyers, nothing too difficult, nothing we can't just break through instantly. The only problem I had was that some of my carriers kept going to the front of the fleet. It's because I keep pressing Control A and then attack onto things to focus fire, because I can't be bothered to set up control groups. And that means your ships like carriers that aren't meant to be fighting will just kind of fly right into the enemy and get up to point blank range and end up getting destroyed. So it does require a bit of micro if you want to win freely, but sometimes I'm just very lazy. At this point the game started lagging, as you can probably tell here, so I figured it was probably about to crash or something and my hard drive's full. So this is as far as I actually filmed, but suffice to say we probably win this battle. I'll try and find out later on once we've cleared up some more space. So yes, we'll end this part here for now, and then next time we'll continue looking for a challenge really. I'm being deliberately flippant and aggressive to see if the enemy stop me. So far they haven't, but maybe the factions in the eastern part of the galaxy will, especially now they've had loads of time to build up. Even if they don't, I hope you'll join me next time for another episode of Devin Complains About Line of Sight in a Game.